what? God is slowing you down to protect you, because if you had done what you wanted to do, it would have killed you. If you had left when you wanted to leave, then the enemies would have got the best of you. But you didn't know God was slowing you down because he was trying to save you. He was trying to protect you. He was got his hands on you. Anybody know what I'm talking about this morning? That's why you can't get mad. You can't get mad when you're caught in traffic. That's why you ought not get mad when you oversleep in the morning. You ought not get mad when God takes you on another ride. You ought not get mad when they say you gotta work mandatory overtime. You ought not get mad when your meet has been canceled. You ought not get mad when you can't find your keys in the morning. You ought not get mad when you don't get accepted. You ought not get mad when you miss your exit on the road. You ought not get mad when you go start your car and your car won't start. You know why? Because God may be protecting you from something. God may be delaying you from something. God may be trying to protect you from something that's trying to kill you. He has providence over your life. You know what he was telling me? He was telling me that every now and then, as a child of God, if you want to go to the destination that God has for you, you got to be tested. Every now and then, you got to be tried for the trouble that's ahead of you. God, deliver me from Christians who don't want to be tested. God, deliver me from Christians who don't want to be tried. God, deliver me from Christians who don't never want to go through anything. God, deliver me from Christians who think everything is going to be everything all the time. You got to be tested, which means you got to cry. That means you got to suffer. That means you got to go through pain. That means you got to go through trials. That means you got to go through tribulations. That means you're going to go through loss. You're going to go through trouble. You just been tried, baby. It is in the text that baby teaches us that worship has to be active. Y'all hear me now? The text teaches us that worship must be active. In other words, worship has to be a verb. That means you got to do something in order to worship him. Worship is not predicated on where you are. He's in the mood. Hello, y'all. I know I'm in the text. Worship is not predicated on where you are. But wherever you are, you ought to have a worship. Listen, y'all. Listen, that no matter where you are, no matter what age you are, no matter what you've been through, that if you want to worship him, you worship him because he's deserving. Matter of fact, you are indebted to him. Matter of fact, you owe him. That every time you open up your mouth is a payment towards all the stuff that he's done for you. The Bible says that he leaped inside of the mother's womb. Can I say that again this morning? There have been moments along the journey when you may not have even known it, when others have counted you out, wrote you off, and thought you were dead. But I'm so glad this morning that God steps in just in the nick of time, that God intervenes in the affairs of humankind, and just when they thought it was over, God steps in and gives us another chance. And you know what I've learned about God? That God's power is revealed in the best times, in situations where it looks like it's over for us, when it looks like there is nothing left. Y'all ain't got to pray. I'm going to preach anyway. That God steps in just when it seems like all hope is lost. Have you ever been there wondering what you were going to do? Didn't know how you were going to make it. Didn't know which way you were going to turn. About to throw up your hands and throw in the towel, and all of a sudden God works a miracle in your life. But don't you know that regardless of what you've been through, there's got to be a sign that you're in his presence. It ought to be a sign every now and then that you are a child of God. In other words, there ought to be an active, somebody say active. There ought to be an active response to who he is. Because that's really, if y'all want to be technical with this, that's really what was going on. There has to be a response of who he is. That whenever you're in his presence, you ought to make recognition that he is Jesus the Christ. See, you ought not be able to be in his presence and don't recognize who he is. How would you like for me to go to your house, sit at your table, and don't even speak to you when I come come through the door. Because you own the house. And because you're the owner of the house, when I get to your presence, I gotta speak to you before I'm able to come and sit at your table. What am I trying to say? That if he is the architect of the universe, that when you get in his presence, you ought to make yourself known, baby. That when you get in his presence, you ought to let him know that you're here. You ought to say, here I am, God. You've been good to me. There ought to be an active response. So what if you fall? So what if you fail? So what if you don't make the team? So what if you don't win? When you fall down, guess what you need to do? You need to get up, dust yourself off, get yourself together, get back up, and give life the very best that you have. Because what I've learned about this Christian journey is that winners don't quit and quitters just don't win. And you know what? That's just how the Christian life is. And that's just how the Christian race is. That on this Christian journey, it's just like a race. That's my grandma would say. Y'all know what she would say. She said, I've been running for Jesus